Welcome to the Catholic Life Podcast.
I don't wanna think about the morning, about the morning. I don't wanna think about the mess in my mind. I don't wanna think about the morning, about the morning. I don't wanna think about the mess in my mind. Don't wanna think about the morning, about the morning. I don't wanna think about the mess in my mind. I don't wanna think about the morning, about the morning. I don't wanna think about much.
Started second with the university this week, and it's pretty brilliant. I'm quite excited. I'm doing some really cool nursing stuff. Cut open a rat last week. That was interesting. You don't do that every day. Never again. And yeah, I'm just loving it. Everything's great. And I've just assembled a team for the podcast, so hopefully we're going to start doing some better production, better promotion, and get some more stuff out there, and take the load off me a bit and put it on someone else. You know, a burden shared is a burden halved, or thirded, because there's three of us now. So you'll hear more of us from that. Just getting over a cold, so sorry if I sound all blocked up and stuff, but that's that. Let's just dive into it. Let's get into this Justice and Mercy.
I don't wanna think about much.
So, I started by looking into what is justice and what is mercy. And one of the podcasts that I watch or listen to is called Clerically Speaking. There's a guy in there called Father Harrison, I assume Ayer, or Ayer, it's spelt weird. He's Canadian. And he put this tweet out, and I thought it was just so rich. I just read it out and we could just pull through it. So Father Harrison says, "The Catholic idea of justice always takes the common good to heart. Catholic justice is never simply retributive, but is rather what is necessary to ensure the pursuit of good for all. Thus, justice is always an act of charity for all." So, first off, he emphasizes the Catholic idea of justice, and I think that's very important because you know, we're definitely in the world, and I think that affects us a lot. And my idea of justice has always been like a cold, you know, hard kind of law-seeking iron fist. This is the law, do it this way. And then there's no grey areas. It's black and white. And therefore, I've always thought of like mercy is just kind of like breaking through that. And therefore, that kind of puts justice on the back burner. It's like, oh yeah, justice is rubbish, you know. I think like often how people view the Old Testament, like, you know, a retributive God, a justice only God, and then Jesus came as mercy. Not true. That's not how it goes. But so yeah, so we have this Catholic idea of justice, and that tries that always takes the common good to heart. So it's leading with the heart, and it's not just self-seeking. It's not saying, okay, we're the Catholic Church, and this is what we believe, and then we're going to make these rules, or we're the government, or we're this body, and we're going to make these rules that serve us. Justice has to serve the common good. It has to serve, it's always outward looking, and that's a very Catholic perspective. You know, that is what Jesus did, and that's what we're trying to emulate. And then the next line, it talks about how, again, he mentions Catholic justice is never simply retributive. It's so again, there's that idea of justice being, you did wrong, here's the punishment, and it's about the punishment and the fact that you did wrong rather than anything else. But it's what is necessary to ensure the pursuit for all good. So how do we do good? How do we even think about doing good? Well, we start with justice. We look at what's just and what's right, and we pursue that. And I love that word, pursuit of all good, because it's an action. And I think the one thing that I'm trying to present whenever I talk about Catholicism, and I think it shows throughout all the episodes of every podcast I've ever done, is that being Christian is something that's lived. It's something that's active, and it's something that requires something of you. And I think that came a lot out in the interview with Bishop Barron and Jordan Peterson. Life is an adventure. It involves courage. These aren't passive things. Neither's justice. And as we'll see later on, neither's mercy. So, So their justice, therefore, is always an act of charity for all. And charity is love. All of a sudden, this idea of this cold, hard, black and white justice isn't cold and hard. It isn't black and white. It's love. And that's why we have justice. It's not there as an iron rod to smack someone with. It's there as, here's the right way to live. And there's that quote from Jordan Peterson from last week's episode. If you really love someone, you can't tolerate when they are less than what they could be. You can't tolerate it. And that's the pursuit for goodness. You see someone that's not living in the right way, and I want to pursue goodness. But how do we do that? And I think the answer is in mercy. And Bishop Barron, in another video, because I just trolled Bishop Barron videos all day, every day, essentially. He goes and talks about mercy as the cross, and I think it's the most beautiful thing, and something that we always forget. The answer to almost every question is the cross. How do I do this? Look to the cross. Bishop Barron talked about how the cross is the exemplification of the Beatitudes. He talks about, and I often, try it as a thought experiment. I tried it once, I can't remember what with, but I was like, okay, if the cross is always the answer, let's think this through. Because another element of Catholic life is thinking deeply about things. Not just like, oh, the answer is the cross, or the answer is justice, or the answer is mercy. And taking a very shallow level of that. But taking it to the very depth of what it means. And I think that, that shallow level gets at something else that I think our idea in the world is that justice is just the law and mercy is just forgiveness. But Bishop Barron talks about forgiveness in a real way and what forgiveness is not. First off, if you've been wronged, forgiveness is not, oh yeah, whatever. It's like, I'll just forgive him. Because A, psychologically, that's not right. You're not dealing with anything. And B, it's not healing that. It's not curing the problem, it's just forgetting the problem. Forgive and forget, it's just focusing on the forget part. So we have the cross as our exemplification of obviously divine mercy. And so I think we see this exemplification of mercy and justice in Les Mis quite famously. I've recently been watching on TVNZ On Demand. There's this, I think it's a BBC series of about 6 or 7 episodes of Les Mis, told from the book. So there's no singing in it, but it's still the story of Les Mis. And I've only watched the first episode, but you see these beautiful moments of justice and mercy, because that's a massive theme in that story of was it Javert being the justice and that black and white. If you've done wrong, you'll always be marked with that. And then the bishop of mercy, and there's this beautiful scene where it's quite famous. Jean Valjean spends the night with the bishop in the bishop's residence, and he nicks stuff and leaves. Gets caught, gets brought back, and the bishop's like, you forgot these candlesticks, they're a gift. Now, if we left it there, I feel like that's the shallow version of what mercy is. But taking it to its fullest extent is there's that part where he's handing the candlesticks over to Jean Valjean, and Jean Valjean takes them, he's like, now I've given you these. And there's this moment of this is forgiveness and this is a gift. You can't throw this away. And that is very much the relationship between justice and mercy. They're peanut butter and jam. They just go together and they become mingled into this one beautiful, glorious sandwich that fills and, is nutritional and delicious. Probably not the most nutritional PBJ, probably not an example, but, that's what just happened, right? Anyway, so we, there's that element, showing what justice and mercy is, but talking about, bring it back down to over to mercy. Mercy is the relationship. So justice is the pursuit. Justice is the impetus. Yes, I want to find this. I want to get to the heart of good. And I suppose left to itself, it could turn into that cold, hard, Javert kind of idea of, I'm going to punish you because you've done bad and there's nothing you can do about it, you're marked forever. But then there's the relationship of mercy. And that's the entering in to the, mess. That's the, destruction that is left behind from our sin, from our brokenness, from Jean Valjean's past, from you name it. Bishop Barron gives us this great example of the story of this Amish family who there was a car of young lads behind them, and they weren't going very fast because they were on a horse and cart, obviously. And then in frustration, these lads overtake them, and a kid from the car lobs a stone out, hits one of the Amish kids, and they die. And so justice has to be served, and no one gets in the way of this, because that's not what mercy is. It's not forgetting justice, but it's working alongside justice. So the kid goes into court, and the family go to court, and they plead with the judge to let him go. They understood it's a kid, it's foolish, and they testified on his behalf. But obviously he'd done the crime, he has to do time, goes put to jail. So they don't leave it there. Every month that family went to meet that kid, and they were in relation with him, and they entered into the mess, into the sinfulness, and they were there with them. And then that's the mercy, that's the thing that will bring the people out of their sinful ways, out of their, destruction, because it's not the end of the line. And this is what the cross teaches us, that, yeah, we've messed up, yeah, we made a mistake, but Jesus took that on himself, and he freed us from it. So we can always go back to him, and that's confession. And we can always go back to him in the Eucharist and be healed of these things. But what I really love about what Bishop Barron talks about mercy is he talks about, here's the line, where is it? Mercy is an invasion of the world. It's not a placid, passive, oh yeah, I'll just forgive you. It's getting stuck in. It's getting involved. Justice is a pursuit. Mercy is an invasion. And it's an invasion of the love of God, which can only really come out in one form, and that's a relationship. God is so much love, and relationship is so much a part of love, that he's not one being. He's three in one. He is both the loved and the lover, and the product of that love in the Holy Spirit. And we need to be that in the world. We don't need to, we can't be sitting on the outskirts. We need to get involved, and we need to transform others with that love. And that comes out in evangelism. And I'm definitely going to do an episode in the future on evangelism. I'm just trying to formulate it into a concise manner. But this is what justice and mercy are. It's a desire for what is good and pursuing that, an active role, an active get in there, followed by an invasion. So we see this person, be it Jean Valjean, be it this kid in that story, who's done wrong, and we pursue justice, but we don't throw them away, because we realise the innate goodness of every created being, and therefore we enter into relationship with them, because that's what we're called to do as Christians. We must get to know the world, and this permeates everything. The people around us, in our work, in our home, in our social lives. Build relationship. But it goes further. Get to know technology. Get to know sports. Get to know Excel, your job, whatever. And invade it with mercy. Pursue the goodness of doing a good job. And transform the lives of those in your life. Transform the use of technology, and let's baptize it and make it great. Because we're not just called for comfort. And the comfy answer is, you've done wrong, go to jail, I don't want to deal with you, never see you ever again. So that's why, shut off, you're dead to me. Or merciful, Okay, yeah, I forgive you, but just don't go anywhere near me. You're forgiven, see you later. The Christian life, that won't do. We've got to get to know, we've got to enter into a relationship, and we've got to pursue what's good for everyone around us, for everything around us, so that we can make it great. Not through our own doing, but through the greatness of the cross, through the blood and water that was poured out for us. So let's call upon grace in our next days, in tomorrow, in our future. Let's call upon the cross and ask for God's grace so that we may live out justice and mercy, and so that we may bring about transformation of the world around us. God bless.
I don't wanna